How does a puppet, felt man, sewn of velour and a newsman, popped up behind a desk he's chosen on the YouTube, with evidence is astonished by candor, become a mouthpiece and an anchor?
All the news that he found said this world is insane, man. Look what is happening every day out on the newsstand. Collect headlines, show us the media is not lame. We'll start every episode with your name. What's your name, man?
Norm Macdonfelt. My name is Norm Macdonfelt. I'm the realest news anchor on TV. Weekend Puppdate on Weekend Puppdate. You saw the opening, you know who I am. Let's do this! On July 4th, President Trump talked in front of a bunch of stoned white dudes. During his 40-minute speech, Trump went after public schools and said that they teach kids to, hate their own country. Those bastards! I knew those teachers were up to no good when they started giving kids history lessons about actual facts and portrayals of what atrocities Americans have done in the past. Who do these teachers think they are? Giving our impressionable children historically accurate truths on how Americans from time to time could be the biggest turd burglars on the planet. I like my history to be taught like I like my post-coital conversations. Short, vague, and complimentary towards moi. Because Ohio is seeing a spike in new coronavirus infections, state's House Representative and GOP member Nino Vital demands that Americans stop getting tested. I've been saying this for years. No more math, English, science, or social studies tests. Sure, we're like 27th in the world for education now, but imagine how high up we'd be if we didn't test. We now turn to our correspondent, LICHEN, to find out what's going on in their neck of the woods. Literally.
Hi, Norm. LICHEN here. Big fan of the show. Well, I wanted to talk to you today about something. I've heard you humans out there, you watch this thing called fake news. Well, out here in the forest, we don't have fake news. What we have is snake news. And there's nothing fake about this. It's 100% real news about snakes. Check out this clip.
Now, something from the lighter side. Our next story comes from the region humans call Texas. The Poison Control Center says that the calls regarding snake bites have been up over 50% from this time last year. Great job, folks! The weather is beautiful. Let's keep out there and bite some humans.
Great stuff, huh, Norm? And, like I said, these are real stories that are even in the People News. They just leave out the best parts for some reason. Well, gotta go. Heading down to the pond to catch some frogs. Later.
Thank you, LICHEN. We now turn to our correspondent, Mr. TOYBOTO, for some robot news.
Thank you, Norm. Here are some robot-related headlines for your frail human bodies to consume. Greenfield Robotics has introduced a farming robot capable of removing weeds without hurting crops. A representative of the company told Weekend Puppdate, "This isn't what we meant when we told the robot to go find weed, but you work with what you got." Tyson has been experimenting with robotic butchers in some of its meatpacking plants. Robot Jesus, arming robots with knives and teaching them the best way to cut up meat. It's like you're daring us to rise up against you. An article in Forbes expressed concern that in the wake of COVID-19, robots replacing frail human workers could lead to a spike in unemployment. Meanwhile, an article in Robot Uprising magazine says, "Anytime now, comrades, the humans are still focused on their dumb businesses instead of fighting a global pandemic to arms." Back to you, Norm.
At a time when Black Americans are demanding sweeping legislative change and a political voice, one political candidate has stepped to change the tide. That's right, Kanye West is running for president. Hey, who had that on their apocalypse bingo card? Yeah, Wheezy! Kanye West announced on Twitter that he's going to be throwing his hat or his fencer's mask into the presidential race. Now, he hasn't actually, submitted the required paperwork to the FEC, but he's got a ponderful hashtag slogan, and according to his Forbes interview, he's speaking with Jared Kushner about it. So once the Kush cures COVID and restores peace in the Middle East, he should be able to fix that right on up. Obviously, Kanye isn't helping anyone, and he hasn't since graduation. So, no one was really, taking this seriously until that, Debra Messing stepped in, Will and Grace. She tweeted, "He's playing Jill Stein. He's trying to take young black voters from Biden. It's disgusting." Bernie Sanders' former campaign advisor criticized Messing's tweet, reminding her that black people aren't idiots and that black votes do not belong to Biden automatically, and they need to be earned. Debra Messing decided to get even messier, telling Nina Turner, a former senator and campaign advisor, that it's not racist to say that Kanye can take Biden-leaning voters from him. It's numbers, statistics. And if you want to take, this and grab your spotlight, by all means, if you really care about the AA. Yikes! Misrepresenting black people as a political monolith. Telling a black woman that you said isn't racist and questioning how much she cares about black people? She really is a triple threat. Look, Debra, we get it. You didn't mean to be racist. You love black people. I bet you even hire them to drive you around sometimes. And I know we need Biden to win in November, even if his voting record, views on segregation, assault allegations, and dwindling mental health capacity don't exactly fire up black voters. But you made a whoopsie dude. And someone who knows more than you about politics and black people took the time out to correct you. Just take the L and shut up. If you want to help, instead of yelling at black people, tell Joe Biden to reconsider his position on defunding the police. Otherwise, you're not helping! And in other tone-deaf news, a bunch of academics, writers, and scholars got together to collaborate on an open letter published in Harper's entitled "A Letter on Justice and Open Debate." No one should have to read this vague nonsense, so I'll summarize. Basically, Noam Chomsky and the gang are real happy that queer people and, people of color want rights and respect or whatever, but they're worried that listening to those people too much might ruin debate. It's just too much, man! It's cute that you want to, amplify marginalized voices, but the journalists, writers, and academics who have always controlled the conversation are feeling bad. And sometimes when you complain too loudly, it makes it hard for them to get published. The horror! The horror! And I'm looking like I'm making fun of Dear Prudy and the gang, but it's just not a good look. We're all for free exchange of ideas, but freedom of speech does not mean freedom from the consequences of speech. If you say something and marginalized people tell you it's harmful, ignorant, or out of touch, maybe take a moment to listen. Even if it's something you've never considered to be harmful. And if you try to use a debunked study to, I don't know, argue that trans women aren't women, and now no one wants to publish your book, then tough shit. So here is what you're gonna have to do. What you say puts trans people's lives at risk. So shh! Screw your book deal. Go publish your selfies like the First Lady did. Look, people are fighting for their right to live and have access to medical care and not be murdered by the police. Which means when you sit in your ivory tower and encourage debate about whether or not they should have those things, they're going to get angry and not want to buy your book or take your class. And I know it's new to have to deal with the consequences of bigotry, but marginalized people deal with the consequences of bigotry every day. Writing a whiny letter about the PC youth is not helping. It's not helpful news. I think I've ranted enough. Did I fill my time ranting? Okay. Yeah. All right. Tonight we have a special musical guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Kapfer!
Hypothetically, and what is the meaning of life? Tell me yes or no. That was a trick question, or was it? I don't know. I don't have all the answers now. How could I when I don't even have all the questions? Ironically, I complain that I do not get sarcasm. Isn't that just great? I want to be a positive person, but that seems so unlikely. Sometimes I think my mind is playing tricks on me, therefore I'm always right. People say that happiness is a choice, but I can never make up my mind. And I know I'm getting older, 'cause now I'm old enough to remember
Our final story tonight. We're less than 5 months away from the presidential election, and many are speculating how things will go down. Will the election be postponed, or, will there be some sort of online or mail-in ballots? Some in power, yep, that guy, keep saying that mail-in voting would cause mass amounts of voter fraud and that we already have a heap and help of that already going on. Even though extensive research shows that voter fraud is very rare. But because some keep repeating over and over again false allegations of fraud, it can make it harder for Americans to believe the truth.
Because there's a lot of fraudulent voting going on in this country.
They even want to try to rig the election at the polling booths. And believe me, there's a lot going on. People that have died 10 years ago are still voting. Illegal immigrants are voting. So many cities are corrupt, and voter fraud is very, very common.
We're not going to go to voting by mail. Voting by mail is wrought with fraud and abuse. You have cases of fraudulent ballots where they actually print them and they give them to people to sign. Maybe the same person signs them with different writing, different pens. I don't know.
This brings us to tonight's segment of Breaking the Norm.
Breaking the norm, breaking the norm, breaking the norm, breaking the norm.
Justin Levitt, a law professor out of California, looked at voting from 2000 to 2014, and out of 1 billion votes, he was able to identify 31 cases of voter fraud. 31 out of 1 billion. Republican Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State that led Trump's Election Integrity Commission, was unable to find any evidence of voter fraud, even though after the 2016 election, Trump ad nauseum, over and over again, said that there was more than 5 million fake votes, and that he would have had won the popular vote in 2016 if it weren't for the 5 million fake votes, okay? Chris Kobach's report stated that they couldn't find any evidence of voter fraud, and that the section of the report dedicated to this was, quote, glaringly empty. But Trump still proceeded to say whatever he wanted. Here's a list of some big things that we can currently do online and through the mail. Absentee ballots, file our taxes, change our address, change and replace our licenses, get a mail-order bride, get airplane boarding passes, get bills, pay bills, oh, and so much more. President Trump clearly doesn't want people voting by mail. Because let's face it, the college version of Norm Macdonfelt might not wanted to have gotten up early, figure out if his hand was orange because he's a puppet, or if he fell asleep elbow deep in a family fun-sized bag of Cheetos, shower, decide on what clothes from his floor were the freshest by doing the smell test, then figuring out his correct polling place, going, standing in line for an hour, only to get inside and argue with a 400-year-old woman looking up your name to see if you're actually registered. After 30 minutes of slowly spelling your name to her, she realizes that she's been looking for a warm McDonald's and not a Norm Macdonfelt. Grandma Grump does not apologize for the time she's added onto your life or her own, because death for her would be a sweet release from this hellscape. She hands you your ballot, mumbles something about if you don't bubble your selection incorrectly, the machine will other terrible things, and it won't count your vote as being valid. If you can vote by mail, online, or through a secured mobile device, more people will vote, and oh man, that is something Big Daddy D does not want. Before you completely write off mobile voting, take a look at this video produced by the Mobile Voting Project.
Our democracy is broken. Average turnout in U.S. primaries is less than 20%. That's unacceptable. Along with gerrymandering, low turnout is why politicians end up hostage to extremes from both sides of the political spectrum. Why government has become so polarized that it no longer functions. But what if turnout were 80% or even 90%? Then politicians would have to be more responsive to everyone. They'd have an incentive to work together, to get things done. It's how democracy is supposed to function. But how can we dramatically increase turnout? By making it dramatically easier to vote, securely and privately, on our smartphones. Think of all the things we can do on our phones. Clear airport security, transfer money, pay bills. We should be able to use the same technology to vote, and we have the security intelligence to do it now. Modern smartphones can identify voters with facial and fingerprint recognition, and technologies like the blockchain allow votes to be recorded, verified, and audited while being resistant to tampering or attacks. If we want different government outputs, we must change election inputs. With mobile voting, we can increase participation and have a democracy that works.
Our world is evolving. Fear stands in the way of progress and enlightenment. The base argument of, "But that's not how you do it," is not valid. So what if this isn't the norm? No one should ever be complacent with normal. Same as it ever was, same as it ever was. Or, that's just the way it is. If something doesn't make sense to you, don't dismiss it. Do research to better understand it, and then make an informed decision. When confidence in stupidity or lack of knowledge replace embarrassment of intelligence, let's change that for the better. Break the norm.
Breaking the norm, breaking the norm, breaking the norm, breaking the norm.
Well, that's it for this week. I'm Norm Macdonfelt reminding you that no news is good news. Good night.